Hi everyone, welcome to my presentation. Today I'm talking about 10 usability heuristics for UI design. So this is not a guideline, but this is a thumb rule. It's a great thumb rules you can apply it in UI design proposed by Jakob Nielson. What we are talking today, I will explain about these 10 heuristics. This is a rule of thumb we can implement in UI design. Then how to implement in UI design. Then how the rules affect UX, because how these UI design rules going to affect the user experience. Then fourth one is how to audit against these rules, whether your UI design is perfectly matching with these rules or not. I'm Thomas. After this presentation, if you feel that you want to talk to me one-to-one, or if you want to talk to me privately, you can scan this QR code and fix an appointment. We can talk about how to listen a user, how to plan a project, how to execute a project, how to deploy, and how to measure user experience. So you are welcome to fix an appointment and talk to me. Also, if you like my presentation, or if you're fascinated with my presentation, you can like, share, and comment on this, and you can share to your friends and team. Coming back to our topic, 10 usability heuristics for UI design. The complete credit for this topic and my presentation goes to Jakob Nielson, a great visionary in this field. He was a user advocate and principal of Nielsen Norman Group. He invented, along with Donald Norman. So hats off to this visionary who gives these 10 heuristics for our day-to-day practice. Also, you can refer about his works in Wikipedia. What is first rule? Visibility of system status. The system should always keep users informed about what is going on through appropriate feedback within reasonable time. What it is? The system should be interactive with the user. User gives some instructions, then system is doing something. The user don't know what is happening inside the system. So these situations to be avoided. The system should always keep user informed that okay, this is uploading, this is downloading or opening, or something is in progress. Maybe the process is within 1 second. You can avoid these type of updates. But if the process is more than 1 second, of course, if it's more than 2 seconds, you have to. Otherwise, a user feels that something wrong with the system, it's not responding. So avoid this type of uh, communication gap between user and the system. Always give the visibility of system status. Second rule, match between the system and the real world. So the system should speak the user's language. Whatever the language we are talking to the user, it should be in a user's language with words, phrases, and concepts familiar to the user, rather than system-oriented terms follow real-world conventions. So what it is? So whatever you are talking to a user, it should be in user's language with words, phrases, and concepts. Sometimes the programmers will give some system-oriented terms, so user can't understand it. Better to give the user's language. There's a rule number two. Then coming to rule number three, user control and freedom. Users often choose system functions by mistake and will need a clearly marked emergency exit to leave the unwanted state without having to go through an extended dialogue, support, undo, redo, etc. So this rule explains we have to accommodate the behavior of the user will make mistakes. Most of the functions in your system or in your app, you will just click on it, maybe by mistake. So whenever user feels that this by mistake, there should be emergency exit. For example, if you've done something and immediately the user notices that this is not the right way, the user has to undo it. So that's an emergency exit. So don't ask more questions or don't deviate from that situation. It's better to undo and go back to the previous state of the system. So user should have this freedom to do something. And if the user feels that I made a mistake, immediately go back to the previous state of the system. This is one of the important rules we had to implement while designing the UI. Then coming to the fourth rule, consistency and standards. Users should not have to wonder whether different words, situations, or actions mean the same thing, follow platform conventions. What it is. So you have to keep the standards in colors and words while communicating to the user. As I shown here, think about when you see a red color, something wrong in it, it's a universal accepted color for something wrong in it, or you have to stop. If the yellow, that's you have to be more vigilant, and green, that's a sign to go. So think about these colors, or even though you are using a color, don't use red color for stop in one frame, and in another side of the app you may be using a violet color for stop or white color for stop. So these type of confusions to be avoided, inconsistency to be avoided. So we have to keep the colors and words. Sometimes people say that the programmers will say that okay, remove. In another situation, programmer will say delete. Maybe the programmer's intention is to do the same action, but the user have a confusion. What is the difference between remove and delete? Avoid these type of inconsistent situations. Keep a standards, enter applications, and the situations, words, and colors to be in standard. Then, fifth rule is error prevention. Even better than good error messages is carefully designed and which prevents a problem from occurring in the first place. Either eliminate error-prone conditions or check for them and present users with a confirmation option before they commit to the action. So even better than good error messages. That is, when you give a error messages, even better than good error messages is carefully designed and which prevents a problem from occurring in this first place. So think about error message before that, how to prevent that error. The best example is think about this password. When you create a new password, so you'll be taking the reconfirmation of the new password again. So user won't, if even the user make the mistakes, it will be, the program will take care of. So instead of giving the error later, look at the bank account numbers on a lot of critical situations. When we want to take the critical information, it's better to avoid errors, make some programming rules to avoid errors. So better than error message is better to carefully design to prevent the error. Then coming to sixth rule, recognition rather than recall. Minimize users' memory load by making objects, actions, and options visible. The user should not have to remember information from one part of the dialogue to another. Instructions for use the system should be visible and easily retrievable whenever appropriate. So accept the fact that user have very minimum memory. User can't memorize everything in his mind. Also, we should not insist user to memorize something. For example, a user is going to a work progress, is step by step he is doing something. So the program is moving from one form to another form or another one scene to another scene. So don't ask or don't take it granted that the user will remember what happened in the second stage. Now the user is in fifth stage. What happened in the second stage? So don't test this type of memory with the user. So it's better in the fifth stage, you have to give the progress and saying that this is happened in second stage or first stage, second stage, third stage, fourth stage, and fifth stage. Now you are in fifth stage. This is a major thing happened in these stages. User should have that track. So it minimizes users' memory. So minimize users' memory load by making objects, actions, and options visible. That's one of the great rule you have to keep in mind while developing UI. That's the seventh rule. Flexibility and efficiency of use. Accelerators, unseen by novice user, may often speed up the interactions for the expert user such that the system can cater both inexperienced and experienced users, allow users to tailor frequent actions. So what it is? The programmer will give or designer will give multiple options by keeping in mind that different levels of users can use options according to his own flexibility and his own efficient method. For example, input from two methods, or as you see in the video, the user can hold the handles or who control from two positions. So these type of inputs gives the efficiency for the user as well as the fast interaction with the user. That means the system can cater both any category of users. Maybe it's a fast user or some more flexibility given to the different type of users. So flexibility and efficiency of use. Then the next one is aesthetic and minimalist design. Dialogue should not contain information which is irrelevant or rarely needed. Every extra unit of information in a dialogue completes with the relevant unit of information and diminishes their relative visibility. Okay, your design should be minimalist and the interaction should be minimalist. So should contain minimum information. Whatever information you are adding, think that you are explaining it better, but actually when you add one more word or one more sentence to a clarification or a dialogue, it's making complexity in users' minds. According to the developer, it's explaining more and more, but when you add more information, it gives complexity to the confusion to the user because he's comparing what he's learning, he's taking the meaning of these first sentence, second sentence, and third sentence, and he has to compare and conclude. So it's better close the things in a minimalist way and avoid all irrelevant information. When you give extra unit of information, it should match, it should be an add-on to the first information you have given. Don't explain the first information again and again and again. Okay, so minimalist design. The ninth one, help users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. Error message should be expressed in the plain language, not codes. Precisely indicate the problem and constructive suggestion to the selection of the solution. So what it is? So Even though users will make errors, the error messages should be expressed in plain language, simple and minimalistically. But one important thing you have to keep in: don't make codes. So most of the time you get an error 404. How user knows this? What is 404? So avoid these type of interactions with user. User should have a clear error message and indicate the problem. At the same time, the designer should support the user to come out from that situation. So help users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. Then the 10th one, help and documentation. Even though it is better if the system can be used without documentation, it may be necessary to provide help and documentation. Any such information should be easy to search, focus on the user's task, list concrete steps to be carried out, and not too large. Better you design UI without documentation. That is a perfect design. It should be self-explanatory, but it's very tough to reach that level by a UI designer because people are different concept. People conceive in a different ways, so it's very difficult. Sometimes people needs documentation and help. So when the designer provide help and documentation, it should be easy to search, focus on user's task, only give the information or documentation to the task, and clear cut steps to be carried. Don't give a big paragraph and everything. So clear cut, bullet point, or clear information pictures or bullet points, the steps, and it should not too large. So keep in mind that how to design your help and document. Maybe a tooltip, maybe a help document to be designed in a precise manner, target to the task, and clear. Okay, when we come to these 10 rules, 10 heuristics, visibility of system status. The second one is match between the system and the real world. Third is user control and freedom. Fourth is consistency and standards. Fifth is error prevention. Sixth is recognition rather than recall. Seventh is flexibility and efficiency of use. Eighth is aesthetic and minimalist design. Ninth is help user recognize, diagnose, and recover from the errors. Tenth is help and documentation. These 10 rules not only for digital design, apply in analog designs or hardware design also, because from hardware also user is interacting. So hardware also interacting with the user, with the interface. So whenever there is an interface, maybe in hardware or software, or in a complete physical product like an automobile or a mixie or a grinder or an oven, so look into the interface. Apply these rules. Whenever there is an interaction with the user and the equipment, there is an interface. If there is an interface, apply these rules. Okay? So don't think that this is only for digital or some website design or something like that. I'm not interested in that type of digital and limiting my explanation only to the digital products, websites and programs. You can easily apply these rules. But look into a interface of your microwave. How we can apply these rules to that? That is more interesting. And how user interacting to the minimalist design or minimalist interface you are providing in a microwave. Apply these rules. This is there also user is interacting. User should get clarity on what is happening inside. Then implement in UI design. So how we can implement these UI? Okay, these rules are good. We can keep in mind, but we have to implement also. How we can implement in UI design? One thing you have to keep in mind while the design stage itself, you have to make sure that these tools are applied. What I mean is, while you design the screens, so include these screens, which is for confirmation or which is more communication or for clarity or undo, whatever it may be. You have to design these. The designer has to design these screens also. You can see in my screen the first home screen, then go to my account, then take the logout. There is a confirmation. So confirmation is taking from the user while logout. Most of the UI designers, what they do, they will give this screen, home screen, then the last screen. Better to design complete interaction in UI design stage itself. Whatever may be the interaction, maybe it's opening a file, you are showing a progress bar, while closing a file, you are showing a confirmation message, while deleting a confirmation message. So, whatever the icons you are using, whatever the communication method you are trying to do, should design in the UI design stage itself. Don't let the backend programmer or the front end programmer later to implement these things. So it's a UI designer's duty to do that. No, but what I notice with the UI designers, they will give the first screen, second screen, and third screen, then say that their design is complete. No, it should be as equal as the front end of the program, front end of the interface, which is working in the real time. So you have to design with proper colors, proper layout, proper flow. Maybe you can use Figma or Adobe XD or UI SAT for these type of things, and it should be the design also should be interactive. It should not be in just five screens you draw in Photoshop or some type the static level. So UI design should be in dynamic level, and it should be confirmed or should be developed by the UI designer in an interactive form. That is the first step you have to implement in UI designing stage itself. So it's very easy to implement these tools. Then, of course, according to my experience, UI designer will make mistakes. They won't consider this tool. They will just say, okay, log out, okay, logged out. Log in, okay, it's logged in. Delete, okay, that's all. Delete. Product designer, oh, another person who can cross check the UI design. That is an important step you have to follow in UI design stage. You have to cross check the design against these rules, whether all the rules are implemented. When there is a delete, okay, whether it's a confirmation is there. When there is an upload, whether the progress bar is there. When there is an error, is a message is clear. And you should not, better not to engage a programmer to test this. Better not to engage a UI designer to test it. Better a product designer, or better you avoid a product tester to do this. What we suggest is go to the field and test your design with targeted users, because that user is the exact user you are going to who is going to use your product. So that user, you are designing the product by keeping in mind that this category of people is going to use product. So better go to field and test your design in all aspects of these user interface and these rules. So design to be tested. So you can test internally, then go to field and test. So this is one of the important stage. You have to do the design testing with the targeted users. You can keep all statistical principles in while designing, while testing it. Look into these rules. These rules creates user experience. Look again to these rules. Visibility of system status, match between the system and real world, user control and freedom, consistency and standards, error prevention, recognition rather than recall, flexibility and efficiency, Aesthetic and minimalist design help users recognize, help and document. Think about these rules. These rules are actually the triggers or catalyst for the user experience. Whatever the user experience is developing in his mind, in the user's mind, based on these rules, because these are the rules coming out, or these are the rules to be implemented with the user interface, and user interface is interacting with the user. While these interaction, the experience is created. So if only the experience is good when the interaction is best, or interaction is without any gap, with interaction is without any gap or without any confusion, so then the user experience is in the right way. Otherwise, if the interaction is having a gap, or if the user interaction is confusing, then user always will be having the bad opinion about the product, even though the product is giving the results, because result is one factor, but the end results is not only the factor gives good user experience, because user always know that this end result, but the interaction before the end results with the system, that gives user experience, that gives the value to the level of user experience. For example, if you are traveling in an airline, you know that the airline will reach the destination. You are 100% confident on that, otherwise you won't enter to that plane. So you're 100% confident that the plane will reach the destination. That is the end results. But that will have very minimal effect to the user experience, or the level of user experience created in user's mind, or how are you satisfied with our performance. When your airline asking to the passenger, are you satisfied, or mark it in 0 to 1, 0 to 10, how you satisfied with our performance. Whether user is considering that is destination, you reach the destination, is that fact? Maybe you had to reach in time, that may be one fact. What's the food you are serving it, how you cater the passenger when there is a request. These things are counts in user experience, because user will judge the product based on a lot of factors, not only with core factors. The core factor, yeah, you have to reach the destination, but core factor is a minimum effect, having a minimum effect in the user experience. Look into the enhancing factors or love factors or neutral factors, even the neutral factors, these having a lot of experience. For example, if you talk about a banking, so we know that the payment will be affected to my account, and it will be debited or credited, so I can get the balance. So account is meant for that. Every user knows that. So the credit or debit won't give any trigger for the user experience in user's mind. But how you interact with the user while he is asking what is my balance, while he look into the site of the bank, how it is interacting, and how it is giving the messages, how it is reacting when the when the app, when the banking app is reacting to the user with this message. These gives better user experience, or these are the main triggers to get better user experience. Otherwise, you judge on what basis user recommend your product to others. You know the NPS. So when you count the NPS, Net Promoter Scores, on what basis user recommend your product to others? Not based on the result, because result is granted. User have no doubt on it. If you, but it should be there. If you are not giving the results, the entire thing collapse. But actually, the result is granted. The user experience, the recommendation of your product to his friends and colleagues is based on the interaction or the level of interaction or how close you are with the user. So then look into these rules. These rules give clarity how to design an interaction. Okay, the next step is after launching the product. So after design, you develop the product according to the design. The programmer will develop the product according to the design, then launch the product. After that, you have to do, the company has to you do UX audit. How to do that? There are different methods available. I'm explaining a prominent method here. The 4 questions evaluator will answer when executing an action. So you can use evaluators for that. Will the user be trying to produce whatever effect the action has? If there is a control on the interface, will user be trying to produce whatever effect the action, whether user will use it? That's the first question. Will user be able to locate the control for the action? So when the user needs an action, whether user can locate how to do or what are the steps to do, what are the controls or what are the buttons to do that action, whether user can locate it easily. Then will the control user found help them to reach the goal they want? Will these controls give the clarity and saying clearly to the user that this control will reach you to what you need? For example, I want to delete a file, whether this button reach the, so that means you have to clearly explain that on that button itself. Or you have to use some icons, maybe high temperature, low temperature. This is very much limited when you design an interface or equipment, because you have very limited space to do that. Mobile app or website, you have a lot of space, but actually think about interface in microwave or interface in mixie or your dishwasher. So you have a very limited space. Think about an automobile, think about a dashboard of a car, or think about the panel in a bike, motorbike. So you have very limited space when you use the physical controls. If it's a digital control, of course you have more space. Think about the digital control, very minimal. So whether these buttons they found will help them reach the goal they want. And will the interface provide the understandable feedback for the user after each action? So when they execute that action, whether the interface gives the understandable, okay, this is running, or this is moving, or something like that. So these are the 4 important questions you have to gather from the user and or evaluator while doing the UX audits. So I already released a video on this more detail how to do these walkthroughs. So you can refer my old videos. So I'm not going deep into these steps, because these are one of the main steps how to analyze user experience. So based on these questions, you will get information from users. Then collect that information according to the statistical principles. So you can invite a lot of users for that and test it. Then evaluate this information you gathered from the users during UX audit. Evaluate against these rules. These 10 rules you have to keep in mind, or in more statistical terms, you can keep it as a hypothesis, or you have to keep it as an objective of the project and develop a hypothesis based on these rules. Visibility is not proper in system. For user control and freedom is not up to the mark. Like that, you can develop a lot of hypotheses and test the information or check the information you gather from the users against this hypothesis. That's a way to evaluate. So you have to apply the rules in the design stage, then develop the product and with the interface, then launch the product. After launching, you have to do the UX audit, and this information you gathered from UX audit to be tested against these rules. then convince that you have to convince that this is properly followed, and you can release the final product after beta testing. Okay, so what are the takeaways? The great 10 rules for UI design. Visibility of system status. Second one is match between the system and the real world. Third is user control and freedom. Fourth is consistency and standards. Fifth is error prevention. Sixth is recognition rather than recall. Seventh is flexibility and efficiency of use. Eighth is aesthetic and minimalist design. Ninth is help users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. 10th is help and documentation. So these rules you have to keep in mind like a 10 commandments in Bible. So as a UI designer, you have to keep these 10 rules always in front of you while designing it. As a product designer, keep these rules in mind while testing the product and before releasing the product. And also you have to keep these rules when you develop the next version of the product. Technology will be changing, so the interface may be changing, interaction methods will be changing, but you have to audit with these rules. Think about your translations in a message in UI, or what is the type of sentence you are using. Maybe it's a graphical form or is in the text form with colors. So look to whatever components you have in your user interface, audit them with these rules. Thank you so much. Again, I give credit to the great visionary Jakob Nielson, who proposed these 10 great principles for interaction design. Also, you can scan this QR code if you want to talk to me about any of the stages: how to listen a user, how to plan a project, how to execute a project, how to deploy a project, and how to measure user experience. We will talk to you in UX and UI design perspectives. Okay, thank you again for your time. Questions? Of course, you can ask any questions. We will talk to you in UX and UI design perspective. Okay, thank you again for your time. Questions? Of course, you can ask any questions. If you have any questions, you can update in the comment box so that I can answer to the questions. Okay, thank you again for your time. If you have any questions, you can update in the comment box so that I can answer to the questions. Thank you so much.